Welcome back to Matter and Meaning. Today we are joined by Dr. Lyn Evans, a legendary Welsh physicist and Swansea University alumni, who led an international effort to construct the world's largest and most expensive science experiment, the Large Hadron Collider. Originally from a small village in the Welsh Valleys, Lyn joined Swansea University in 1963. He graduated with a PhD in physics in 1970, and in 1994 was appointed as project lead for the construction of the Large Hadron Collider in Geneva, Switzerland. He spent the next 14 years overseeing the design and construction of this remarkable scientific and engineering project, and on the 10th of September 2008, with the whole world watching, he switched the experiment on. Lyn has received numerous prizes from the American Physical Society, the Royal Society, the Learned Society of Wales, the Institute of Physics, and several universities, as well as more awards, including the Special Breakthrough Prize in Fundamental Physics, the Glazebrook Medal, the IEEE Simon Ramo Medal, and the Ralph Vidra Prize. He also received a CBE from Queen Elizabeth II in 2001. We hope you enjoy this conversation as much as we did.
Yeah, are you ready? Are you comfortable to just start
Yeah,
off?
fine.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. All right. Yeah, let's hop into the LHC stuff, actually. Um how because I'm sure a lot of people have had this question. How did you first get involved with the construction of the LHC?
Well, it was much earlier than that. You just don't get involved in a thing like that
Yeah,
without a big build-up. I,
I
I
bet.
I joined CERN in September 1969, and I worked on the construction of the SPS, the superproton synchrotron,
Mhm.
from 1970 to 76. The SPS is still running, and it is actually one part of the injector chain to the LHC. So that's where I got my first experience on building accelerators. And in 76, the idea came up of converting the SPS from a fixed target machine into a colliding beam machine.
Mhm.
The energy boost is enormous when you do that because what's important if you the traditional way of doing high energy physics was uh, accelerating a beam to the top energy that it could, depending on the strength of the magnetic field, and then extracting it and hitting a target nucleons in the target to produce new particles. But that's very inefficient. The energy available in the rest frame, in the center of mass frame of the system, where the one nucleon is at rest and the protons are traveling relativistically, it only goes up as a square root of the energy.
Mhm.
So if I take, for instance, the 400 GeV SPS as a fixed target machine, its center of mass energy would be about 30 GeV. But if we could convert it into a colliding beam device with beams going in opposite directions, then the center of mass energy would be 800 GeV. So huge energy boost.
Yeah, wow.
So the idea came up since the SPS is only a single ring, you cannot have two beams going in opposite directions in the same magnetic field. But you can have protons and antiprotons going in opposite directions in a single ring. So
Mhm.
that's when we designed the antiproton accumulator to accumulate antiprotons. So, I mean, this was a hell of a project. It was really pushing the limits. First of all, producing antiprotons, which you can from the CERN proton synchrotron, 26 GeV machine will produce antiprotons
Yeah.
at about 3 GeV. And then one would have to accumulate them in a ring and cool them because the phase space occupied by the antiprotons is going to be very big. So over time, you have to shrink down the beam size. And the method that was developed by Simon van der Meer to do this was called stochastic cooling. But it would take hours. So basically, what we would have to do is to inject every 3 seconds an antiproton pulse into the accumulator, stack it and cool it. And this you would take 24 hours for an intense enough beam to accumulate. And then in one shot, we had to extract the antiprotons from the accumulator, accelerate them through the CERN proton synchrotron into the SPS, put in protons in opposite direction, and then accelerate the two beams up to an energy of about 300 GeV. We did. We did this because we knew that there was a prediction of the existence of uh, two new bosons, vector bosons, one charge and one neutral, and we had an idea of the energy that we would need. It would be about 100 GeV. So using this trick, we could produce the W and Z bosons, they're called.
Mm.
So amazingly, this all worked. And by 1980, we had protons and antiprotons circulating in the SPS. And in 1984, in 1983, the W and Z were discovered. And in 1984, Carl Rubier, who was responsible for the experiment, and Simon van der Meer, who's the inventor of stochastic cooling, got a Nobel Prize.
Oh
Now, the
wow.
important thing about that machine was it was a perfect prototype for the LHC. So it was quite natural that we then studied a much bigger machine that would have the potential of finding, especially the Higgs boson.
Sure.
So it was a long and fairly coherent chain. So that was in 84. In 83, I think it was 83 or 84, I wrote the first paper on the conceptual design of the Large Hadron Collider.
Yeah.
And it took about 10 years to get that approved. Yeah, you did ask me what did I do in that time between the
Yeah.
83 and 83. Well, I worked on the LEP machine, which was being commissioned at CERN, electron positron storage ring, which had a fairly limited life. But what was interesting for us really was the tunnel that it was built in, because we knew that if we could build a two ring, it had to be two ring. We couldn't use the proton antiproton trick again because the intensities we would need to get the very tiny cross sections of the Higgs boson were much more than in pp bar. So it had to be two proton rings in a very compact structure inside a
Yeah.
single tunnel.
Hmm.
So that's how the LHC came about. It was the first big study was done in the early 80s, but it took a long time to get it approved. At the time, there was also an American project. It's called the Superconducting Super Collider in Texas, which was being built actually in Waxahachie. And that was, of course, a real competitor. But that machine was cancelled in 1990,
Huh.
1990, no, 1993, I think it was. Anyway, during the time between the proton antiproton collider and me taking on the LHC, I did quite a few things. I was head of the largest division at CERN for 4 years. I worked on the commissioning of LEP. I worked on the Tevatron, which was a superconducting machine based on the principles of stochastic cooling I mentioned. That was in Chicago in Fermilab, and
Hmm.
that was the first superconducting ring. That's where I got my first experience on large scale superconductivity. When it came to getting the LHC approved, I was appointed project leader. I had the experience, and so I took that on in when was it? End of 1993. Uh,
Wow.
uh, and the rest is history. Took a long time
Yeah.
to build it though.
Yeah. Ben actually had a question that you might have answered, but I think it would be interesting to hear a little bit more in depth about how the LHC might have been built because there wasn't really anything like it before. But now that you've explained that there's kind of a predecessor, I guess it kind of like changed. version of that answer is what was different about the LHC compared to its predecessor that you guys had to account for in terms of engineering and in terms of like obviously
Yeah,
there was more energy needed and things like
yeah,
that, and obviously money.
yeah. Well, the proton antiproton collider was very special, and that was built out of necessity to discover the W and Z bosons.
Mhm.
It had many orders of magnitude smaller luminosity than the LHC does. Uh, I think it took us 2 years to accumulate enough luminosity for the discovery of the W and Z particle. That when we collide beams in the LHC, it takes 2 seconds to get the same integrated. It is a completely different world. So
Wow.
I think, like I say, we had to abandon the proton antiproton principle, which would have been attractive because it's only a single ring, not two,
Mhm.
and design a very compact two-ring device with protons in opposite directions. And of course, we had to use the LEP tunnel, which is 27 kilometers in circumference. So since the tunnel circumference was fixed, then the energy of the machine would be determined by how strong the bending magnets that we could build would be. And there, I think we did a big technical innovation in that superconducting magnets have been used. I mentioned the Tevatron.
Mhm.
The, the field of the Tevatron magnets was about 4 Tesla. We needed nearly 9 Tesla.
Sure, that's quite a bit more.
And you can't do that using conventional. Sup- you can do it using conventional superconductor, but you have to cool the superconductor down to a much lower temperature in order to get the higher field. So we designed the LHC to be cooled not in liquid helium normal, but in superfluid helium.
Mhm.
Uh, helium. You probably know there's a phase transition in helium at 2.17 Kelvin. 4.2 Kelvin is the boiling point at normal pressure. But if you cool it down to 2.17 Kelvin, there's a very sharp phase transition where it becomes a superfluid. And we had to actually cool it down quite a bit lower than that to 1.9 Kelvin in order for us to achieve the 9 Tesla field that we were
Wow.
looking.
Yeah.
So it was a big leap. I mean, superfluid helium. Normally you have a cup full of it, right? We have 100 tons of it in the LEC,
Wow.
and it's very tricky stuff to deal with. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got no viscosity. It's got a huge thermal conductivity, which is great for the LEC. And that was a big challenge, building such a huge machine using superfluid helium at 1.9 Kelvin.
Yeah. And you guys never had any problems with keeping it contained or anything ever, have you?
Well, I think it's a welder's nightmare, if you've got a tiny crack,
Yeah.
then you lose it. But no, I think it needed huge quality control. We had plenty of
Yeah.
problems during the construction of the LEC, but none of them that we couldn't solve.
That's actually quite a good statement. A lot of problems, but none you couldn't solve.
That's right.
I was just interested in, yeah, the process of how you cool a material like that. How do you make it so cold?
Well, first of all, you have to liquefy helium. That's known. You buy a refrigerator, right?
Yeah.
Very, very big ones, eight very big ones. With you get liquid helium, which is 4.2 Kelvin at normal temperature and pressure. Then to go further down in temperature, you have to reduce the vapor pressure above the liquid. The lower the pressure, the lower the boiling point.
Hmm.
As any climber knows, when they have to make a cup of tea at high altitude, it tastes less good.
Yeah.
So in a heat exchanger, we had to lower the pressure above the helium to 15 millibar.
Hmm.
So this means using huge pumps
Hmm.
for the primary superfluid, and that was heat exchanged with the secondary helium, which is at 1 bar pressure, And once you cross the lambda point, it's called the lambda point, the transition between normal and superfluid helium.
Hmm.
Once you cross the lambda point, then the helium at atmospheric pressure also becomes superfluid.
Hmm.
So inside the magnets, we've got helium at atmospheric pressure, but 1.9 Kelvin, with a heat exchanger tube going through the middle of it, which in it itself is got the pressure reduced to 15 millibar. So that's the trick.
Hmm.
Hmm. I see.
It's like layers of helium, basically.
Yeah. So kind of going off of the comment that you made earlier, you guys have had a lot of problems, but none that you couldn't solve. What was going through your mind after, the 9 days after initially um, started its first experiment, there was a hardware failure?
Yes, well, that would not be unusual in the normal circumstances, but in a system like that, it produced a lot of damage. I think what happened was, of course, all the magnets, all the dipoles, all 27 kilometer ring are in series.
Hmm.
Uh, so in the tunnel, one has to make superconducting joints going from one dipole to another.
Hmm.
Um, there are 10,000 of those joints.
Nice.
And we actually did a risk analysis of a joint failure, and we came out with a probability of 10 to the minus 4.
Oh, wow.
10 to the minus 4 times 10,000 is 1, right? Um, and we did have a joint failure, which cost us about a year actually in repairing
Mhm.
it, everything. But okay, it was fixed. It took time.
Yeah.
That time was very well used in commissioning the detector, so that when we did come on, the uh, the machine worked very, very well, very quickly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, that was a real kick in the teeth. I mean, but there have been others, not quite so spectacular.
Mm.
yeah.
Was there a necessity to have them built in series? Because it seems like it would be more efficient or more tr you could trust it more if it was in parallel. It's sort of
Well,
like Christmas lights in series, if one goes, they all go kind of thing.
oh yeah, well, but they have to be in series. You've only got one power supply.
Uh, so it's to
Oh,
do with the power. Okay, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the magnets have got to carry exactly the same current. They have to have
Right.
exactly the same magnetic field.
actually, I did want to touch on just particle accelerator, or maybe not particle accelerator, but I guess yeah, just accelerator-based physics in general. Is there a limit to what it can tell us in physics? Uh, what it can help us discover if energy wasn't a problem? Because I know it has been a big problem.
Mm.
Well, yeah, no, I think we are reaching those limits now.
Yeah.
I think that obviously cost and power consumption, even
Hmm.
though the machine is superconducting, it still takes a hell of a lot of power to run the refrigerators.
Hmm.
Yeah.
The magnets themselves don't consume any power, but the helium refrigerators and the cold pumping systems do. We are at the limit of what we can do with a superconductor, even going down to 1.9 Kelvin.
Mm.
Wow.
There are other superconductors, but they're extremely difficult to work with
Hmm.
and extremely expensive. And even then, you've only got another maybe factor of two that you could possibly get in field, and that would be a tremendous achievement. So you're gonna have to end up building huge rings. There's a project for a 90-kilometer ring here at CERN, which I don't think will ever be built. Yeah, we are reaching limitations of what we can achieve with particle accelerators,
Mm.
and as well as that, we are reaching limits in guidance. You see, when we proposed the LHC, well, we built the PP bar collider because there was a theoretical prediction of the existence of the W and Z bosons
Yeah.
to complete the standard model. And
Hmm.
then the Higgs boson, that was predicted, except that whereas the W and Z masses were roughly predicted, so that we could build a machine that would be able to find it, the Higgs was not. The Higgs, we had no idea of what its mass would be. And if
Mhm.
you build a machine which is too low in energy to produce the mass of the particle, you'll never see the particle. And that's happened many times actually over the years.
Oh, really?
So when we built the LHC, we built it so that we were certain that if the Higgs boson existed, we would find it.
Mm.
And that's why the Higgs actually ended up very light. It's only 125 GeV,
Mm.
whereas the LHC will go up to 14 TeV.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
We've
Yeah.
got a huge margin there.
Yeah.
And now we've got to exploit that margin over the next years in order to push up in discovery potential for heavier objects
Sure.
where there are no theoretical guidance. We just do not know what after the Higgs. We have a thing called the Standard Model, and the Higgs is the last brick in the Standard Model. But we know the Standard Model is not complete. The origin of dark matter, dark energy, is a total mystery, and we are doing experiments to try to at least extend the knowledge there. One contribution to that actually was the LHC itself, because there was a wonderful theory called supersymmetry, where
Wow.
every particle had a supersymmetric partner, and the lightest supersymmetric neutral particle could explain the dark matter in the universe. It's a beautiful theory. It makes predictions that could be tested on the LHC.
Mm.
Sure.
But unfortunately, the LHC has not found supersymmetry. In fact, it's shown that cannot exist in its simplest form.
Mm.
Now, that may be the most profound discovery so far, because there
Really?
was a huge industry out there doing supersymmetry, and they've all got to start from scratch again.
Mm.
But that's just as valuable as proving that something does exist, proving that it can't, right? So are these all topics that the LHC has been working on since the discovery of the Higgs boson? Because to my understanding, that was its kind of first mission and main mission. But once it got that out of the way, what has it been doing since?
It's accumulated a small fraction of the data that it was built to take. The more data you get, the higher energy you probe, the smaller cross sections that you probe. And unfortunately, I think up to now, the standard model has held. It's not yet cracked, although we know it must crack sometime. Whether the LHC can help to crack it or not, we will know in the next years. There will be an upgrade now. The LHC will be closed down for 3 years for a major upgrade of the not such a big upgrade of the machine, because there's very little more we can do, but of the detectors,
Mm.
um, and then to carry on a more refined program after that.
Hmm.
So I guess the LHC's got another 15, 20 years to go.
Mm.
And who knows what we will find. Like
Yeah.
I say, unlike the Higgs boson, where we knew if it existed, we would find it. We've shown that supersymmetry doesn't exist,
Mm.
Yeah.
at least in its simplest form. So, yeah, there might even be some theorists in Swansea that were studying supersymmetry. I'm not sure.
Oh, wow.
But okay, I think now over the coming years, the LHC is the only game in town. Huh? It's the highest energy machine in the world.
Yeah.
Mm.
Of course, there are proposals but these proposals are now hitting serious financial and technical boundaries.
Hmm.
It's really a time now where we really, apart from the LHC, we really don't know where to go.
Mm.
Sure. So it's less of a technology and power issue, although we are pushing the limits, but more of a kind of just directional issue of where should
Yes, yeah.
where should we be looking.
Things are things are getting far too expensive now to use the argument. We don't know what we'll find, but let's build it and we'll see what we get.
Yeah, sure.
That was in the 60s and 70s. And now you've got to have a damn good reason to build a machine. And even the LHC, getting it approved by the CERN Council was not easy.
Mm.
Yeah,
And that with a well-defined physics objective.
yeah, sure.
Now with a very vague objective, I don't think it's going to work.
Mm.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I understand what you mean by that because the 90 kilometer one you said,
I think it was 90 kilometers, you said.
Yeah,
I saw the other day that it's projected to be like $100 billion or something to
that's
build.
right.
And that's just like if you don't have a defined
Yeah.
thing that you're trying to discover and you're just like, well, let's build it and see what
Yeah,
happens.
that's it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it doesn't wash anymore, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and I think people are beginning to realize that. Although it's very difficult to explain to a theorist.
Well, yeah,
Like,
because if people in the physics community want to find things out for the point of
Yeah.
finding it out, we're all curious,
yeah,
but not
yeah,
everyone is.
yeah. I mean, it's really worrying that there is absolutely no guidance now. Well, we
Mm.
can take a punt with the LHC because we built it and it's done some very important physics already. But and our best chance now is to push the LHC as hard as we can, get the most we can out of it.
What kind of price are we talking for the upgrade of the LHC?
That's a good question.
Well, the LHC will have a luminosity upgrade, which means increasing the production rate by a fact, not a very big factor, a factor of two or so, by changing relatively small number of magnets at the interaction point that focus the beams down. Upgrade is in the detectors. There are
Hmm.
four detectors: Atlas and CMS, and LHCb and Alice. Alice is a heavy ion detector, and LHCb. I don't know if you're following things, but there's been a huge shock in the UK for a budget cut for particle physics.
Oh,
Hmm.
Uh,
wow.
and the UK is a leader in the LSTB collaboration for 50 million pounds, which has been cut, and that's the first time that the UK has reneged on any commitment that is made. I mean, this could sink the LSTB if it's
Hmm.
not overturned. So
Wow.
there's a big lobby now trying to reverse that decision to cut the STFC budget.
Hmm.
Mhm. So this is not the first time that upgrades have been made. What did you have to keep in mind when first starting this project to make it easy to make upgrades in the future? Were there things that you had to keep in mind to think about future upgrades?
Uh, well, I think first we built the LHC in a way that if it was of any scientific interest, an electron ring could be put in on top of the LHC
Oh, wow.
and make collisions of protons with leptons.
Mhm.
Now, that's not these days a very high priority.
Okay.
But that was one of the things. Of course, the upgrades you're not going to change 1,200 superconducting magnets, which are worth a million a shot,
Yeah.
1.2 billion in superconducting magnets.
Wow.
But you can modify the 16 magnets or so in the interaction point in order to make them stronger and more strongly focusing, and a number of other things like increasing intensity.
So I mean, we were talking with Chris a couple weeks ago. Obviously, that's how we got in contact with you. And he mentioned that it might be a funny story to talk about the paint of the pipe,
The
that
paint of the paint of the pipe.
of the paint of
The
the
bean
what the
pipe.
beam
Yeah.
pipe.
Well, no, not the beam pipe. I mean, I don't know really any funny story except the Director General of CERN when I was designing the LHC was Chris Llewellyn-Smith from the University of Oxford. So
Hmm.
I told him that the only technical decision that he would be allowed to take was to decide the color of the cryostat vessel, and he chose Oxford blue, of course. That way, that's why it's blue. If you've ever seen a picture of the LHC.
That's why it's blue. It's Oxford blue, apparently.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, people. Because obviously you've met quite a few people to fund the LHC. Were there any funding from private companies? As
Private companies? No,
yeah,
no,
no.
no. I think we were told, that there are, I think, 22 member states now. There were 19 member states when the LEC was approved, and they all contribute to the CERN budget. But the CERN budget was not enough to build the LEC. So we were told to go out and find contributions from countries. And this is another problem, by the way, now. The geopolitical situation is
Hmm.
not conducive to that.
Yeah.
And we got big contributions from Russia,
Oh, really?
from the US, from Canada, from India, um, from Japan.
Mm.
These were the five countries that contributed to the construction of the LHC outside
Yeah,
of the normal CERN budget.
they're not member states then.
They're not member states.
Okay.
And it took a lot of negotiation. Fortunately, Chris Glenn Smith was a very good diplomat. We spent lots of time. I spent lots of time in Japan,
Hmm.
always around the 1st of March, which is St. David's Day.
Mhm.
I was invited a few times to the Japan Welsh Society St. David's Day,
Oh wow.
but we always had meetings, and I never could go. But still,
Hmm.
so that's what private companies. They're not interested in contributing. They're interested in making money out
Yeah,
of
that makes
building.
sense.
Hmm.
So how much of your job when it was being constructed and when you were looking for funding for it, how much of your job was actually traveling and kind of just going to conferences and telling them what the project was about?
Well, yeah, I mean, anything like that, then there are phases. There's the design phase,
Hmm.
which is mainly done at home. Um, and then there's the politics,
Yeah,
which
sure.
is done in the CERN Council itself. I think it took us 3 years of debate, discussion, persuasion
Hmm.
in the CERN Council. And then is outside getting these contributions from other countries. And yes, I did a lot. We did a lot of traveling in that time. And then is the actual construction, which is the most interesting.
Yeah.
But again, you do a lot of traveling because the equipment for the LSC, whether it is refrigerators or superconducting magnets, it comes from all around Europe and even outside Europe.
Hmm.
There were quite a few contracts in Japan, for instance.
Mm.
So it was quite a mixture,
Yeah, okay.
sometimes very far from science.
Yeah. Actually, I did have a question because I've been noticing it lately as I'm becoming a physics student of Swansea University. What was it like talking to political figures as somebody who represents science specifically? Because I feel like there's kind of a different attitude that the public and politics has towards science compared to other people. I know that's quite a broad question, but
Yeah, it is a broad question. I think, yeah, I think you have to go speaking outside the member states into other countries. You've got to go through the scientific community. I think they are the interface. They are
yeah.
the interested people. They want to join in and use the machine, and if they want to use it, they have to pay part of it.
Hmm.
Oh,
So,
okay.
convincing politicians is many of them don't understand what the hell we're doing, but
Yeah.
uh, nevertheless there are some very bright ones. But I met a lot of people, during that time. Prime ministers of
Hmm.
Japan, Shinzo Abe, who was shot dead a few years later.
Hmm.
Oh, wow.
The president of China,
Hmm.
Jiang Zemin, the Queen.
Wow.
Many people, but I think I shouldn't forget our local environment. Explaining to the people in the Geneva region, this is the European Center for Nuclear Research.
Hmm.
That's a big word. So convincing them that first of all, CERN is working for perfectly peaceful purposes, and that there is no threat to the environment or to them. That was a big job in itself, and you never should neglect that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You can be stopped if public opinion is against you. So,
Hmm.
okay, it was a big mix, as you can see.
Hmm.
Yeah. When we first contacted you, you said that you were going to Geneva. So what are you doing there nowadays then? If you were
But I
if
live in Geneva.
oh,
Hmm.
I
I
am
didn't
in Geneva.
Yeah.
I
oh
am in Geneva now.
Okay.
oh you're
Yeah.
still in Geneva. Oh, I thought you were only going there for about a week.
A few weeks ago, I was giving a couple of lectures in Imperial College.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I said I was going back to Geneva.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Okay, no, that makes sense
Okay.
then. Okay, sure.
I've been living here 57 years.
Oh, wow.
That makes sense why they would appoint you to
Yeah,
lead the project if you live there then.
definitely.
Does that have anything to do with why the project is in Geneva or
Oh,
Why did they
well,
choose
no,
that
no.
location?
I mean, that is very simple. I think CERN was founded in 1954.
Yeah.
That's 9 years after the war.
Mhm.
And it would be very difficult to found a thing like that today. It needed a world war to do it.
Yeah, sure.
And there, first of all, Europe was trailing the big countries, America and Russia, in science because of lack of resources. And there was also a need and a wish to reunify scientists from different countries that had been fighting each other.
Mhm.
Uh, the Germans, the French, Italians, etc., bring them together again. And that's why CERN was founded. It was founded in Geneva. Well, first of all, Geneva is Switzerland is neutral,
Yeah.
and Geneva was cheap. It certainly isn't cheap anymore. It's the one most expensive country in the world. But that's how it was founded. And of course, once CERN is founded, the LHC itself is built on a huge infrastructure
Mhm.
of existing infrastructure. If you were go to build that on a green field site, it would cost three times as much.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it's quite natural that we can't, I think like that cannot move away.
So what actually existed there before you built the LHC? The
What existed there before? Well, I told you. I think
Yeah, that was
in the early 60s, the proton synchrotron was built, a 26 GeV machine.
was the tunnel already there?
And then in the 70s, I worked on building the super proton synchrotron, which the PS is 300 meters in circumference. The
Mhm.
SPS is 6 kilometers in circumference.
Mm.
And it was the SPS that was used as a proton antiproton collider, which
Yeah.
was the stepping stone towards the LHC.
Mm.
So the PS still exists, the SPS still exists. These are part of the injected chain to the LHC.
When they were building the predecessor to the LHC, did they already have the LHC in mind? Or
Uh, well, in a way, yes. The tunnel actually is very small. It's only 3.6 meters in diameter.
sure.
So they could have been more generous in the tunnel, but we developed a very clever trick of building very compact superconducting magnets. So even with the limitation of the tunnel, we managed to do it. But no, not really with the LHC in mind. If it had been really mindful of the LHC, they would have built a much bigger tunnel.
Oh, I see. Okay.
We did it anyway.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
Was there any problem when building it when you guys, well, I don't want to say realized, but when you had to build it across the borders because it does go into Italy, right?
Yes, it crosses the border. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the one problem don't forget that tunnel was built for electron positron machine,
Mm.
and it was very careful not to have any surface buildings in Switzerland. All the surface buildings were in France, and only underground in Switzerland. That's changed now because Atlas is in Switzerland. It's a big installation there. But yeah, that was the main limitation. And of course, we also had to extend across the border. CERN was an international organization based in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Then we had to get it based in France as well. And actually, the second laboratory of CERN is actually located in France.
Okay.
By the way, I think we have a tremendous visitors platform which is very new, and it's pretty cheap to get to Geneva these days
Mm.
with EasyJet from Bristol. So we get huge numbers of visitors, and there's a whole infrastructure there to cater for them, to give guided tours. So if any of the physics society want to make a trip to Geneva, it's pretty easy.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's great. I heard that I think they do
There's a
tours
thing
there,
we try to
yeah,
do it
every
every
two
2 years,
years.
but
Yeah.
yeah, we did it
But
last year and hope to do it next year, I think, again.
yeah.
I get
So
funding.
where are you from? You're American, right?
Yeah, I am American. I'm from California.
From California. Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Same here.
Welcome to Wet Wales.
Yeah, I know. I've realized it's always so gray over here.
Sun's out today, actually. Came up.
Yeah, yeah, it is out today. It's a nice day. Okay. I mean, I guess I'll just also ask, is there any like big problem when you first took this on that you can kind of distinguish from the rest. That just was like this giant, massive problem that was really hard to get over compared to anything else that you've done.
Yeah, it was a giant giant problem. Fortunately, when I took it on, I had a very good team of scientists and engineers who had come off the previous projects that I mentioned. They
Hmm.
the SPS as I did, and left. So there was a very well-established team, and that helped enormously in the
Yeah.
transition to the LEC.
Was there any like specific problem that you had to work around?
Well, developing these this very special superconducting magnets using superfluid helium,
Hmm.
that took a long time. We were building 1 meter long prototypes. The LSC magnets are 14 meters long,
Oh,
but
wow.
we had to develop the technology. That was the hardest of all, I think.
Was there any new kind of design techniques that you had to learn for this? And like new skills basically? Because of the nature of this project, it's so different from
Well,
anything else.
handling the helium in massive quantities, project management, keeping control of a huge project, 4 billion Swiss franc project.
Yeah, wow.
Um, you know, nothing special.
Yeah,
Mhm.
nothing special.
How big was the team that you were controlling? Was it like a big effort, a lot of people? Or
Oh, yeah, it was about 400.
okay.
Wow.
I mean, don't forget, it's not just the superconductivity and cryogenics, it's power supplies,
Mm,
beam
Hmm.
instrumentation, vacuum, even conventional systems like water cooling, a
mhm,
huge number of systems where there were groups assigned radio frequency, the accelerating system.
Sure.
So they were organized in groups,
mhm,
Yeah.
looked
Hmm.
after each system.
mm.
Yeah.
And were they all people that belonged to CERN, or did you contract people as well?
Well, the core always belonged to CERN, and of course there was work done in our laboratory, collaborating laboratories in the US. We worked with Brookhaven, Fermilab, and SLAC,
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
and we had scientists and engineers also working with us on that.
Hmm.
But we used outside contractors mainly for installation stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You know.
What was your favorite part about working on the project?
I don't think there was any favorite part. It was all
Really?
fascinating.
Hmm.
Like I tried to explain, it came in, the character changed over time, whether
Yeah.
you were doing design or politics or commissioning,
Mm.
finally getting a beam in it was and getting collision. So that was, of course, that was pinnacle.
Pretty
And the
good. Yeah.
discovery, the discovery of the Higgs boson was. There was a seminar on the 4th of July 2008, and I was going to Australia that afternoon.
Sure.
And in that seminar, Atlas and CMS were presenting their results and double blind. And there was one striking presentation of the Higgs to gamma gamma, where you see a big background and then you see a small peak. And Atlas showed it, and then CMS showed it, absolutely identical peak.
Mm.
Any one of them has shown it, it would have been interesting, but not a discovery. But there it was nailed down. Peter Higgs was there.
Yeah, sure.
It was quite a thing.
Can you speak about the first day that CERN, the LHC opened? Because I heard that you didn't expect much media attention, and then you had a lot of reporters come down.
Yeah,
Quite
well,
surprising.
Yeah, that must have
Quite
been.
surprising.
yeah, well, yeah. I think that we always when we are commissioning, we always try to be pretty discreet because things never work first time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And for instance, the proton antiproton collider commissioning was done. There was just myself and Carlo Rubia in the control room in the middle of the night,
Hmm.
getting the first collisions. Now, with the LHC, it was a different kettle of fish because these two guys from Hawaii were well known. had predicted that we would blow up the universe, right? I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
And these guys had played that trick in the past. Actually, in Brookhaven, they tried to stop uh, the machine there. Um, and they created a lot. And this is amplified by social media, of course, by the World Wide Web, which we
Hmm.
invented. So there was this terrific interest. It was decided that no way could CERN keep the press out with this kind of interest. So the commissioning was crazy, completely crazy, full of TV bands and relay tracks and stuff like that. And we were told by Eurovision, who looks after these transmissions, that at sometime in the course of that day, 1 billion people had tuned
Wow.
in to find out what's going on.
Nice.
So yes, it created great interest as well. I suppose it would if we were going to blow up the universe. And
Yeah, well, that's only a seventh of people. Okay, only a seventh of everyone cares if
of
we're gonna
the
blow up.
planet. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
That must be one of the most watched events in TV history, I'd
really?
assume.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Huh.
that's got to be.
Yeah, I've definitely heard about things of, blowing up the universe and creating black holes and this and that.
that's right.
And
Yeah.
actually, does that if it gets enough media attention, does it actually affect funding and things like that as well? Like, do politicians buy into the social media? Because obviously the general public doesn't
Well,
understand.
yeah, it helps. It helps as long as we do not actually blow up the universe, of course. But I mean, the biggest help we had with the Higgs discovery was a front page in the Economist
Mm,
Oh, really?
of a tremendous discovery. The
mm.
Economist, the politicians read. This is the kind of thing that influences them. So yeah, it's not bad. I don't know if you remember that, but also there was this thing about this was not that long ago, but the faster than light neutrinos. Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I've seen that
That
headline.
that were being detected in the Gran Sasso laboratory by a neutrino being sent from CERN. And that created a lot of interest, and but it was, of course, it was found out to be wrong. In fact, the way that we showed it was wrong, we sent them an LC beam, which was of 1 nanosecond pulses,
Hmm.
so it could be very precisely timed, and that was shot down pretty quickly. A faulty connector.
Mm,
Oh,
Anyway, again, it created a lot of public interest,
mm,
right?
yeah, sure.
And that's not bad, even if it's wrong.
Yeah, so even if because I was wondering, since a lot of the people funding it obviously aren't scientists themselves, they don't really understand what's going on. So it
Absolutely not.
usually doesn't hurt the funding having bad information go around as well.
Yeah, but don't forget we've got a structure of committees advising government.
Hmm.
Uh,
Okay.
we have the CERN Council, the delegates. There are 2 delegates per country, one political and one scientific, and then we have the Scientific Policy Committee of individual scientists from all around the world
Yeah.
uh,
mm.
who meet and report to the council on the work we're doing. So that's the way they get the unbiased information.
I was just going to say we're coming up on the time and
On the
we
hour, yeah,
appreciated
right.
your time as well, very much. We appreciated it. And I'm sure the entire physics society and physics department enjoyed your time as well.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's good to meet you guys.
Yeah, it was very good
If
to meet you.
if you decide to make a trip to CERN, let me know.
Mhm.
I'll be here.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure.
Hopefully.
All right.
Okay.
Well, we're very appreciative of your time and yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. All the best.